This just in, we received an urgent, dangerous weather warning of all of our local game stores. Authorities are suggesting that everyone hides in their basements, put their heads between their legs, and kiss their butts goodbye. After all, there is no shelter strong enough to withstand a dragon storm. Welcome to Head Games. Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is the Zombie Apocalypse, and in Tarkir they call me, which roughly translates to Steve.
That's an interesting language to learn. Hey there, gang. I'm Jeterex, proud Khan of my local clan, where they're always chanting, if Tim can't do it, no one can.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Anyway, I was thinking of the Khan!
Oh, that would have been good too.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today on the Head Games Commander podcast, where we talk about the Magic the Gathering Commander format. Tim, after hours of cuts and gold fishing, really, what are we talking about today?
Today, friends and opponents, it is time for another Commander Spotlight. You all know the drill by now. We're going to break down one of our Commander decks, describing the deck strategy, what we love about the Commander, highlighting some of our favorite cards in the deck. So the deck that we are looking at today was built by Zombie out of the new Tarkir Dragonstorm set, but more specifically out of one of the precons, the Sultai black, green, and blue precon, to be even more specific. So we'll start by asking Zombie, tell us the Commander, what do they do, and how do you describe the deck in like a Rule 0/bracket conversation?
So this is Teval, the balanced scale. He is a one blue, black, green. He's a 4/4 flyer. Whenever Teval attacks, mill 3 cards, and then you may return a land card from your graveyard and put it onto the battlefield tap. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. This card's great, but the rule 0 is, I lie. I say this is basically a precon out of the box. You should not attack me. This deck is a pile of garbage. No, that's not actually true. What I really say is this is a bracket 4. This is very intended to be a bracket 4. This is poor Windgrace's replacement. Sorry, buddy. You had a long run.
Rest in power, King.
Yeah, I know, right? Basically, treat me as a threat because I am the threat. And I'm curious if I really should be that like blunt about it, because I mean, I get targeted first all the time because I say that, but like I've almost won every single game that I had with this deck. So like it's not wrong to do it. I don't know like if that's something that I should be doing.
I think it depends a whole lot on whether or not you want to win.
It's true. It's true.
And really, like, to be more direct, I think the answer is no. I don't think that that's actually a part of the Rule 0 conversation. If I'm giving a clear picture on what the power level of the deck is, the other people at that point get to make their own assessment as to whether or not you are the threat.
It's true.
And really, in the games that we have played with this deck, it's not like you broke everybody's back and it was like really one-sided or lopsided.
No.
But to say this is very clearly a bracket 4. There are a goodly number of game changers in it. It is a lands matter, or kind of a land. You call it the land dance. That kind of, it creates a kind of utility that not all decks have. So giving a little bit of that information, the stuff that is traditionally discussed in the bracket, I don't think you need to say, "Hey, I'm the threat. Come at me, bro."
Come at me, bro. Yeah, you're probably right, but that's just something that, I mean, I've only played the deck twice, and I'm always afraid that like I will get like partnered up with someone that has a lower power level deck, and I just want to like this is on the higher echelon of power. According to Card Realms, it's a 10. So anyway, so we're gonna go ahead, and now that we talked about the Rule 0 and everything like that, I really want to get into the strengths and weaknesses of the deck. So Tim, what kind of strengths did you see from this list?
So we do a lot of deck building together these
It's
days.
true.
So I had the chance to kind of goldfish this deck a lot, and really I contributed a little bit to the thought process. It was mostly you, but you
Mhm.
did ask me for some feedback, so I did contribute a little bit to the final cut and what some of the things that ended up no not ending up
Right.
making the cut. So I got to goldfish the deck quite a lot on Mox Field and see what I thought about the rhythm of it and how I thought that it went. And then I got to watch you play it twice. So I would say, in terms of strength, this deck and decks like it that use lands as high utility resources, because
Mhm.
not all decks do that, they're traditionally very resilient. And I think that is the case with this deck. Even if there is a mass removal and everybody kind of gets set back,
Mhm.
this deck will almost always be able to jump back to getting its engine humming with just one turn. So I think that knowing that you're resilient allows you to play differently and allows you to make different choices. I think that's certainly a strength. And I think that the deck's also capable of seeming like it's not doing much
Right.
and then having one really remarkable turn. Like when this deck really gets, and I found that in goldfishing it that like, yeah, turns 1 through 4 didn't feel all that great, but 5 was
Mhm.
very, very often like the whole thing just blows up very quickly, and it kind of seems like it's out of nowhere, which I think is a good.
That's what I like about
I
it.
think that's a good. Right, that's a good thing for in the deck to do at that stage of the game. In terms of, I also noted that it has a lot of really effective interactions. And remarkably, now that I've looked at the numbers, since we kind of broke everything down, it's funny that the numbers are actually low. I just think that the interactive choices that you've made
Right.
fit very well with what the deck is doing. And again, you get the benefit of having lands
Mhm.
that are single targeted
Right.
interactions, and that's remarkable. Um, in terms of weakness, you identified one of them already, which is I actually think that this type of deck draws aggro, like
Right.
it draws the threat attention, whether you tell them to or not.
Right.
I see a landfall commander, and again, it doesn't technically have the word landfall on it,
I mean, I think
but you
only like
see it,
3 or 4 cards in the deck say landfall on it or have an ability
but
that's like landfall.
but
But
the whole deck is built around this remarkable synergy
yeah.
with lands getting lands into and out of the graveyard, which is turns out is actually, as far as the things to get in and out of your graveyard, lands are among the easiest.
Yep. Yep.
So it just, and those decks seem to draw a lot of attention, which can be a weakness, especially if everybody decides that you are the threat early on. I also think, and this might be something of a hot take, I think that the payoff from this commander is actually weaker than it seems. Like, I think getting, like, the first thing, the
Mhm.
attack trigger is good, but it's an attack trigger. It's not an
That's
enters an
rough.
attack
Yeah. I
trigger.
wish it
It's
said
just
enters
an
and
attack.
attacks. Yeah.
It's just an attack trigger, and so it has to sit around a whole turn before you can actually get that trigger. And really, like the mill 3 cards and then return a land, like that's the same thing as as blossoming tortoise.
It's
It's
true.
like it's good, but it's not busted. And even the second half of it, where you're getting a horde
Mhm.
of zombies, this deck is gonna win with a combo kill a lot of the
Right,
time.
right.
So
And
that's
well,
it.
so
So the
so the cool thing is that second half of the ability fuels one of my combos. Um
right.
so like as a standalone card, I agree with you that like just having one or more card leave and getting a 2/2 versus and milling 3 cards and getting a land aren't as good as like let's say Windgrace, where I'm either discarding a land and drawing 2 cards, or I'm bringing 2 lands back right now untapped.
Yep. Yep.
So, but it turns out there's a lot of good blue cards.
That's the piece. So the weakness is that the card itself is not a busted commander.
Right.
It's the color that's the
Mhm.
color identity that it allows you to play
Yeah.
in a Lands Matter deck that really makes this a good choice. So
Yeah.
how about you? You played it a couple of times and goldfished it a million times by
I have
now.
goldfished
What
it a
are your
million times.
what
One
are
of
your
the
strengths and weaknesses?
you nailed most of it right on the head. But like one of the strengths is it's hard to run out of things to do.
Hmm.
But that's also its greatest weakness. It's hard
It's
to pick
funny,
the
isn't it?
right thing to do, because the one game that uh I've got too focused on like getting the combo instead of everyone was at 15 instead of just dealing 15 damage to everybody or whatever.
Right.
So like I could have gotten different cards. I could have used different cards to get more cards and have sack outlets. Like there's just it gets so bungled. And it's just like, okay, well, what's the best line? And for a person that doesn't like to waste other people's times, um me thinking through my turn on my turn feels like I'm wasting a lot of people's times. So I try to
Yeah.
do everything in my power to think about it beforehand, but since most of my plans revolve on let's look at more cards and see what happens, you can only plan so far. And that's what makes this deck hard to play.
And I think that like in that description is a very interesting question about the game of Commander. And it is, we try to straddle this line between having a deck be interesting and new each time we play it, or and not being linear,
Mm-hmm.
and also having something where we can know what the right choice is enough
Right.
of the time. So it's like we're having this, internal struggle in our deck building of having something that's very linear
Mm-hmm.
where we know what the right choice is every time,
Yep.
or something that's really like complicated where we get to kind of solve the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And we want both. And the problem is that you can't actually have both. So finding the Goldilocks zone where you're kind of a little bit of each
Mm-hmm.
is what we're all striving for. But this one in particular, because it's a graveyard deck, adds that extra layer of complication and and it's hard to actually pay attention to all the different interactions when you've got 20 cards in your graveyard and a full
Mm-hmm.
grip, and all the permanents in play. You've got 40 different cards that can interact with each other, and it's like I actually don't know what the right line is here.
Right, right. And that's and I'm not the one that plays like I love playing with graveyards and stuff, but I don't play with graveyards this intensively. Right? Like usually
Mm,
I'm looking for maybe just a couple of creatures or whatever, but since I'm looking at so many different card types and trying to get like all the right pieces in and out at like different times and the times that I need them, it like it's just things that I never play with Gravecrawler. And like literally all it would have taken me playing a Gravecrawler 4 turns before I did, which would have dealt you more damage because I would have had another creature that could have attacked. And like
yep.
it's like I'm making a commander with Rando's videos, and like editing that video, I have seen so many mistakes that I have made, and I'm like,
Mm.
I'm just gonna make these mistakes again.
Listen, I think that's the content creator's curse, though. And there's a way of looking at it through a positive light, but anybody who's ever recorded themselves playing a game and watched themselves playing that thing later, and actually it doesn't even have to be a game. It can be anything
Mhm.
that is
Right.
remotely skill based. If you record yourself doing it and then go back and watch it, you will focus in on all of those things. But in this game, and in the game of Magic, it is like really kind of tough to
Mm-hmm.
sit with
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of like, oh wow, I because it happens to me all the time with my arena content, is that I go back and watch the videos and go, oh man, there were a lot of different ways I could have
Yes.
done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
It's a fun
yeah,
problem to
it
have,
is.
though.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving on to, so then in the next section we're going to ask Zombie to kind of hash out all the stats, the common kind of categories of cards that we use to build commander decks, and then we'll do a little breakdown of individual cards. So give us the stats.
All right. The stats of the decks: card draw is 10-ish, ramp 15-ish, single target removal 5-ish, and board wipes definitely 3. Like this one's pretty clear. So the reason why I said ish on a lot of these things is most of my card draw is reusable. Even like the ones that you wouldn't think are reusable in their own way in certain different ways. Same with ramp. It's hard to tell because like milling cards into my graveyard is almost as much as card draw. But I didn't count that in my list of 10 cards. Like my ramp, like it's hard to call something that returns all my lands from my graveyard to play as ramp because I have to have a graveyard and for that to work. So these numbers were hard to get.
What's funny about that is that when I look over the cards that we chose, some of them are very clear in the categories that you're talking about. But I think both of us made ramp choices.
Mm-hmm.
That are like, we know that they're uniquely good in under the right circumstances, but they may not under other circumstances technically qualify as ramp, but we know that like they're explosive in the right situation. So it's and I think that's true about decks like this in a lot, that it's hard to find everything that technically fits into each of these categories. I will say that when you give us the numbers, it occurs to me that your interactions are a little low.
I know.
And I wonder how much that's impacting it. And I actually would be interested to go through the list and see if I disagree with that number, if maybe you have a few more, because I feel like 5 seems low. Not low based on how many you chose to put in, but low in how many things you're counting as interaction.
Yeah, I probably missed a couple things too. You know what I mean?
So, but still, there's a part of me that looks at this and goes, I think there's actually, probably room for more, or maybe we're just not counting things.
Right. So we're going to talk about a card. We each picked a card from each section that we wanted to kind of showcase and kind of get into our heads on what we picked for this section. So, Tim, your first pick is a stellar pick, and I want you to share it with the crowd.
Yeah, so the first section is card draw, and surprising no one who has been a follower of our podcast for any length of time, I picked the Gitrog monster. It's part of my signature spellbook. So whenever there's a deck in these colors, chances are you're going to see this card when I build that deck or when Zombie builds that deck. We're both pretty big fans of this card. So for those who don't know, the Gitrog monster is a 5 mana 6/6. With Death Touch at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog monster unless you sacrifice a land. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, and whenever one or more land cards are put into the graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. And that from anywhere means if we're sacrificing the lands, if we're discarding the lands, or if we're milling the lands, we're drawing cards. So this when the engine is humming in this deck, you can usually draw multiple extra cards a turn from the Gitrog.
Yeah, and when you have so many cards that just say play lands from your graveyard, that cost of sacrificing a land is thank you. Please allow.
And remember that the cost is immediately mitigated by drawing a card.
Yep.
Like, yes, you're sacrificing a land on your upkeep, but you're also drawing a new card, and you can play 2 lands. So if your deck is at a kind of critical mass where it's drawing on a number of cards, or you are able to get things back from your graveyard, it doesn't end up feeling like a downside at all.
So this is what we mean when we picked the picks that we had were really difficult. This could be a card draw spell. It can be a ramp spell. It can.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily fill my graveyard, but like, it kind of does. So like,
it sacrifices lands.
Yeah, dude, this card, like, when every line of text on a card does something for you, it's a shoo-in. And that's exactly the only one that doesn't matter is Death Touch, maybe.
Yep. Which I think most people would agree on this card. Just that's true no matter what. It almost never matters because it's a 6/6 creature to begin with. I guess in Commander sometimes it does matter because 6/6 is not really the ceiling of how big creatures get like it is in some other formats.
It just makes it very difficult to multi-block, right? Because
it does.
It's killing everything. So we're gonna go ahead and get into my card draw spell, and this card is amazing. I love this card a lot. It's called Greater Good. It's a 4 mana enchantment. It's 2 and 2 green. You sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Then you discard 3 cards. Let me tell you, I like to do things like this. I'm going to sack my 2/2 zombie druid, draw 3 cards and draw 2 cards and put 3 cards into my graveyard. So it doesn't just draw me cards. It is filling my graveyard to whatever I want it to be, and it does it great.
Yeah, it's almost like mill that you get to choose.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
Right,
good.
like it's kind of like filter mill almost.
Yeah.
Now you are losing cards in that interaction, but
but most of my creatures
definitely other.
will have like star where it's like, oh, their power and toughness is equal to the number of lands I control. Hey Tim, is drawing 16 cards and discarding 3 any good?
You do net 13 cards in that, so yeah.
Some would say the math checks out. So yeah, this card's great. So that's the card draw section. So we're gonna go head into straight into the ramp package. And funny story, one of the ramp cards that I didn't count is the one that you picked. So Titinish.
Yeah, and really like again, the tricky part of this is that do you count the cards that get lands back from your graveyard? Because like I think that there's 5 or 6 different effects that allow you to either play lands from your graveyard or just get all of the lands back from your graveyard at once.
Yeah.
So this is a slightly different version of that. So out of one of the best sets of last year, Duskmourn, we got Head Shredder. This is a 4-mana artifact vehicle. I'm gonna tell you the vehicle part almost never matters. It's technically a 5/5 when it is crewed, and it only crews for 1. So any old creature can crew this just about, as long as it's not a wall. When Head Shredder attacks, you may mill 2 cards. So all that stuff I just said barely matters. What matters is this line of text. Whenever 1 or more lands are put into your graveyard from your library, put them onto the battlefield tapped.
Yeah.
So it turns all of your mill effects into put those lands directly onto the battlefield.
That's crazy.
And we have seen this card pop off in Commander, and I think it is the truth. It is really in the right deck where you are milling a fair amount of cards. It can be very explosive and get you a lot of lands.
This is gonna sound crazy, but I honestly think the vehicle part is a lot better in this deck in particular because I'm gonna have so many 2/2 tokens.
You're right.
And my 2/2 now turns into a 5/5 that can like mill 2 cards. So it would be cooler if it was a creature, but honestly, I kind of like that it's a vehicle because it avoids natural board wipes.
True.
And like, turning a 2/2 into a 5/5 seems pretty solid too. So
not bad at all. That's an excellent point.
So yeah, this wasn't in the first cut. I actually had to like dig a little deeper for this one, and boy, howdy, I'm glad I found it.
Listen, I still feel like this card isn't quite as hot in Commander as I think that it should be.
It should be way hotter.
And I think that, like, again, there is only a certain kind of deck that's really going to be able to benefit from this card, because if you're not playing any kind of mill strategy at all, but if you are in this color and you are doing any kind of milling, I really recommend this card. I think that it is way better than it looks. As soon, like, especially if you can, as your deck can, as Teval can, play this and then immediately get a mill trigger. So if you're playing this and then attacking because Teval's already on the board, you immediately get that first mill trigger and maybe immediately get a couple of cards from your graveyard.
This is actually how it works with Teval. Assuming I have lands in my graveyard already. Let's say I attack with Teval. I mill 3 cards and I get 2 lands. Then I return a land from Teval, presuming that I had a land in my graveyard before that. I am going to get 2 zombies because it's 2 separate triggers causing things to leave. So pretty sweet.
And a total of 3 lands in the situation you just described.
Exactly. So that sounds like a winning game plan to me. So we're going to go into...
Does that sound like ramp? That sounds like ramp.
Sounds like ramp to me. It also sounds like card draw. It sounds like everything you want. So, so we're gonna go into my card draw pick, which also is a ramp pick too. We're talking about AC Tyrant of Gyre Strait. If you're a blue-green deck and you're not running this card, you're probably doing it wrong because just laying lands draws you cards. is pretty sweet. But let's actually read the card. So it is 6 mana for a green and a blue. He is a 5/5, and you may play an additional land on each of your turns. And then he says landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you may draw a card. How do you win games, Tim?
You draw cards
and spend mana,
and you have more mana than anybody else. Yeah,
bingo. So this card says that to a T.
Yeah, I don't think we're like breaking anybody's brain with this.
No,
one.
Definitely
this is
not.
A known quantity in the Commander format. It's expensive, but it is worth every bit, both dollar wise and mana wise. It is a decent card, or it is more than decent. It is an amazing card. As soon as you play it, you immediately get value out of it. As long as you have lands in your hand, and in a deck like this, you may even be playing lands from your graveyard by the time this hits the battlefield.
It's true. It is true. So, we've talked about ramp. We talked about card draw. Now we're going to talk about single target removal. And we're actually going to talk about it. It's not a boring topic today. So, Tim, what card did you pick today?
Yeah, so this is one of the ones I wanted to ask before I even started this conversation.
No,
did you count your counterspells?
No, I did not. So there's 7.
Did you count? Did you count your Cyclonic Rift?
As single target, I think it did. As I said, I looked at what Card Realm said, and Card Realms picks weird things sometimes. So, like, I didn't find these numbers. Card Realms found them for me.
Just looking over the list, I would agree that the number of single targeted removal spells is fairly low. Is fairly low, but counter spells are interaction, and they're one of the most meaningful interactions in the game, as far as I'm concerned. If you're playing blue and you're playing with some kind of counter spell suite, having counter spells that are enormously powerful is really important. And the reason that I chose this one is not because I think it's necessarily uniquely good in this deck, but it's because something that's come up for me a couple of times since the bracket system got released is that this is not on the list. And
why? I think
that it should. I really think that it should be. Every time I play against it, it completely unbalances the game because you are always skillful at playing it. So the card we're talking about is Mana Drain. So this is a 2 blue counterspell, 2 blue for an instant that reads counter target spell. At the beginning of your next main phase, add an amount of colorless mana equal to the spell's mana value. So not only are you getting the traditional counterspell effect, same mana cost, 2 blue, any spell, not instant or sorcery or limited to non-creatures, any spell for 2 blue, already good. You're also getting to steal all the mana of that spell. So if you're very careful about when you play it, you're getting a 5, 6, 7 mana spell. I see you get 5 for it a lot.
All the time. And let me put you into not even Magic Christmas Land. This literally happened in the last game of Magic we played, or 2 games ago. Someone plays a Smothering Tithe. I said, I countered it. It goes to his graveyard. On my turn, I pay 2 mana for an AC. Tell me how that's not game changing.
Right. And so, this is on your list. And really, when I look at all the game changers that are already in it, and this is not on that list for some reason, I really think that this is a card that I would put up there. Add to it that it's also like dollar-wise and a super expensive card. So this isn't something you're seeing all the time. And I think that kind of makes the case for it being a game changer as well. But all of that to say, it is an extraordinary piece of interaction, and it does work very well in this deck. But that's to say, it works well in any deck.
Right.
That has blue. As
long as you're able to use the mana efficiently, you're doing it right. So, we're gonna go ahead and go into my single target removal. And this isn't like the most flashiest. I would call it a spell, but it's not. It's not the most flashiest thing in the world, but it fits so well in this deck. And let me tell you what the card is first, and then I'll explain my meaning behind this. So we're talking about Boseiju Who Endures. You could also put Otawara in this list as well, because that's also in the 99. What makes it good is you can channel this land by paying in this case, a green and a colorless. You discard Boseiju, destroy target artifact or enchantment or non-basic land an opponent controls. That player that may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So 80% of the time, it's only going to cost me 1 green to destroy whatever artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land. They can be a problem sometimes too. Early on, I can play it. I have the Tangle lands to bounce it back. I have ways to return lands from my graveyard to my hand. So
lots of them.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. So like I might be able to use Boseiju 5 or 6 times in a single game.
It's funny you started by saying this isn't a flashy choice. I disagree. I think that this is an excellent choice. It may be the best single targeted removal. The only thing that holds it back, obviously, is that it doesn't hit everything.
Right.
But the fact that it's reusable, that it is a land, that it's got that value piece to it, Ottawa is as well. It's no slouch. I just realized that you're not playing with the black one, and I need to add that to the list of things you should be playing.
I don't know
with.
what the black one does. That's why it's not here.
The black one mills a couple of cards, then lets you return a creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand.
Why am I not playing the black one?
It's mill and a light raised dead.
That is getting fixed like literally after this recording.
Yeah, it should definitely be in there. It's just it has a different line like in terms of what it's accomplishing, but again with all these other things that we just talked about, like think about Gitrog drawing you cards whenever you channel any of these lands.
Oh,
and then
God.
Yeah. and in combination with some of the other cards I know are on our list to talk about later, all of these are super, super good.
Yeah. Love this card. I mean, again, when I built this deck, this was to basically say, what if Windgrace was in Sultai? So this ain't no cheap deck. It would be cheaper to buy a car. Maybe. They're
a little expensive these days too. Cardboard's still cheaper. It just feels like a lot.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and go into our next category, and we're going to talk about the board wipes. And it turns out these aren't that boring either.
No, they really aren't, and I'm glad to see it. So my choice was the Meat Hook Massacre, which again, pretty known quantity in Commander these days. What's nice is it got reprinted in Innistrad Remasters, so it's not as incredibly expensive to buy as it used to be, but it's a very, very good card. So X and 2 black, legendary enchantment. When it enters, each creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. When a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life. When a creature an opponent dies, you gain a life. So what I like about this is your deck gets a lot of mana, so it's usually going to be a pretty effective removal for all of the creatures on board, but it also doubles as a win condition. So that if you get to a combo that cycles out 2/2 zombie druids, then for 4 mana you go, I have 1,000,000 zombie druids, and now they all die and everybody else is dead.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I like about this deck. There's a lot of different combos, and like I've never been at the point where it's like, man, I have half this combo and I can't do anything with it, because like all my combo pieces just work really well with what I have.
Yeah, they double as other things.
Yeah.
Like as we've said a couple times, almost every card we've described kind of fits into more than one category, and this is another example of that.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a board wipe, but it also can, in the right circumstances, is actually going to win you the game as an Aristocrats piece.
So we're going to go ahead and go into my choice, and I actually really like this card a lot. Honestly, I don't think this counted as one of the card draw spells, by the way.
Right. But it does.
But it definitely is. So we're talking about a card from the new set. It's called Death Begets Life. It is a 5 in Sultai, which is black, green, blue. It says, destroy all creatures and enchantments. Draw a card for each permanent destroyed this way. Man. Paying 8 mana to destroy all creatures and enchantments. And enchantments can be a problem.
They really can.
And then just drawing cards willy-nilly like that? Like, this is my new Decree of Pain. I love Decree of Pain. Like, I wish I could fit Decree of Pain in here, but this is a good replacement for it.
It certainly is, and really, like it, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
More than that, really. Like, would you pay 8 mana to blow up every creature, every enchantment, and probably draw 8 cards?
I
Yeah,
mean,
you would. You would.
every time that you board wiped right before me in the one game, I was gonna cast this and it would have drawn me like
You're
20
like,
cards.
now it doesn't do anything.
Now it doesn't do anything because you already wiped the board. Dang it.
That game was board wiped out game. It really was.
You know what though, guys? Get ready for it because it's been being edited as we speak, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys think. So now that we've talked about, we're gonna move along.
Yep.
The next thing we're gonna spotlight some goals of the deck. I guess you should be talking about this. So I'm gonna
just go right ahead.
Oh, all right.
Go ahead and do it.
So we're gonna talk about the goals of the decks, and we're gonna explain these goals with some highlight picks that we picked for it. So, goal number 1 for the deck is, lo and behold, get cards in my graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
Goal number 2 is to use said cards in my graveyard. Goal 3 is really a goal, but like these are just cards that like every time I see them, it brings a tear of joy. It's just cards that I can't live without. And then the last one is, how do we win?
Yep.
So Tim, why don't you go ahead and tell me the cards you picked for the putting cards in my graveyard?
Yep. So the card I put in the get cards into my graveyard category was a choice that I put up there because it's a card that we had put in our kind of sleeper hits from 2024.
Yeah.
It wasn't the first card that I picked, but then I noticed it in the list. And I think that it's uniquely good in this build, and you'll see why. So the card's Ripples of Undeath. It's a black enchantment for 1 and a black. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards, then you may pay 1 generic mana and 3 life. If you do, put a card from among those milled into your hand. So very simple, mill 3 every turn, but if you've got the mana and you've got the life, you get to put one of those. And if you've got your commander or any of the other things that trigger when a card leaves your graveyard, you get to trigger those things.
Yeah.
So I think that 1 mana and 3 life is a small price to pay for that effect. And so you end up getting really good card selection, because oftentimes when you have just mill 3 every turn, you mill 3 and you go, I wish I could keep one of those. This lets you do that.
Yep. So funny story. So when I had originally built this list, I had Sylvan Library and this. Sylvan Library did not make the final cut, which is telling you something. So like in certain decks, Ripples of Undeath is better than Sylvan Library. This is one of those cases. Every time that I've had this in play, in either play testing or in the game itself, I've loved it. And I've enjoyed it a lot. So I think this is a very good pick. Now, the card that I picked fit in so many categories. But I put it in this one because I feel like it fits kind of the best in this category. So the card I picked is Life from the Loam. It is a sorcery that costs a green and a generic. It says return up to 3 lands from your graveyard to your hand, and then I can dredge 3. There's a lot of the times where on turn 2 I'm just playing Life of the Loam just to put it in my graveyard to then dredge it back to my hand.
Yep.
Because let's say even if I needed to draw a land on turn 3, it's still better to play this and dredge this, because the chance of one of the top 3 cards having a land is better than the top 1. So like even if I'm just like looking for a land drop, this is doing exactly what I want. And then it turns out recasting this 10 times in a game with like Beseju as one of the cards that I'm picking up, and
yes,
like Ardawara,
just
like,
what I was getting. Yeah, it's
Like,
just what I was getting at earlier. That this was the card I was referencing when I said there's a card you're going to talk about later that
yeah,
is enormously good with the channel lands, and this is it. So
yeah.
imagine being able to, bounce a permanent, destroy an artifact or enchantment, and mill a few cards and get a creature back, and then for just a couple of mana, because each of them get cheaper with legendary creatures, and so
Yeah.
each of them usually gets down to cost one or two, and then just loaming all those things back to your hand later.
It seems pretty solid to me.
Mhm.
This deck is complicated, people.
Yeah.
Play at your own risk. So yeah. So now that we've talked about getting cards into my graveyard, let's talk about getting those cards out. And Tim, what card did you pick for us today?
There are a lot of cards in the deck that have this first effect, but I think that this one, I'm a big fan of this card, and I think that people in green should be playing this over other versions. Notable to find out that Crucible of Worlds, the granddaddy of this effect, isn't in the deck
It didn't make the
because
cut. It's crazy. Am I
because
right?
because there are so many other effects now that do the same thing but have upside. And my favorite of the bunch is from Duskmourn, and it's Walk-in Closet / Forgotten Cellar. So the front half of this room is 2 and a green, and it has the Crucible of Worlds effect. You may play lands from your graveyard, and then later on you can activate the other half of it, Forgotten Cellar, for 3 and 2 green. When you unlock this door, you may cast spells from your graveyard this turn, and if a card will be put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, exile it. So you get a little Yawgmoth bargain there. Ish. This gives you the Crucible of World effects early in the game, and the Yawgmoths, whatever the hell, in the
Yep.
back half that allows you to do the thing that we were just talking about.
Man, in the game that we played not too long ago, I had the walk-in closet in play, and I was like, dang, I really needed to get a board wipe. And then I'm like, oh wait, I can just pay 5 mana and cast the one that's in my graveyard. And that's what I did. So yeah, having the Yawgmoth's Will on the back end, yes, it costs 5, but man, I make a lot of mana in this deck. So 5 plus whatever I need isn't so bad. Really love this card a lot. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast. So this card that I'm going to talk about, Tim actually had this deck for a while, and it was really cool. And I try to squeeze this in basically any 5-color list that I can. We're talking about Muldrotha the Gravetide. He is a 6 mana creature. He is 3 and Sultai. Legendary creature. During each of your turns, you may play a land card and cast a permanent spell of each permanent type from your graveyard. This got a lot of permanents in it, Tim. A lot. And being able to get walk-in closet from my graveyard or anything. Basically anything. So I can't get I think 7 spells out of my whole entire list. Maybe 10. This card's amazing. And yes, I get only one of each type, but you can only do so much in one turn, right, Tim?
It's true. 19 is the count in the current build. You have 19 instants and sorceries, but still, that's less than a fifth of the deck, less than 20% of the deck. So, 80% of the cards that are in your graveyard, give or take, are going to be things that you can bring back out with Muldrotha. So yeah, this is a great reanimation target because then it gives you access to everything else in your graveyard as long as it stays in play.
It sure does. Yeah, I would say it's a little troublesome as an early reanimation target because a lot of the times when you're reanimating it, let's say on turn 2 or 3, you don't really have the extra mana to use its ability again. So basically it sits there for a turn. So you have to be careful, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, that's why it's a good reanimation target for like cheap reanimation spells, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for your animate dead, for your,
Right.
whatever else you've got in there that gets things back for cheap, you still got some mana left around to then do other things with it. And actually this card goes really well with animate dead because
Mm-hmm.
if you
If
get
it's in,
Beldrotha out
yeah.
through some other means and animate dead is in your graveyard, that's a permanent, so you get to reanimate
Yeah,
something else.
yeah, it's
And
really good.
it's a lot of fun.
All the lines, all the lines. So, Tim, you picked such an amazing card for this list, and I didn't give you any direction of what I meant when, because like in our notes it just says cards I can't live without, and he picked a card that every time I see it,
Listen, so I fishbowled the deck, and I think that anybody who has played with this card, it actually, it doesn't even need to be a deck like this.
right?
So the card that we're gushing about is Tireless Provisioner. So this is an uncommon 2 and a green for a 3/2 Elf Scout. Whenever a land you control enters, create a food token or a treasure token.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a landfall deck or a deck that can get multiple land drops or get lands back from the graveyard or is playing with fetch lands, or in this case, all of the above,
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
card generates mana in the form of treasures, which I think most folks would argue is better because you don't have to use it immediately. So, in a lot of situations, this is superior to Lotus Cobra because if
Mm-hmm.
you are generating a bunch of mana that you can't use right now, you just get to bank it for later. So I think Provisioner's better across the board, and so like it's as you described after the fact. It's that card that when it shows up in your hand, you go, "Oh yeah, this hand's good now."
Yeah.
This hand's good now because it means that all of the other cards that are creating that land dance are now going to generate additional mana.
Do you know what else is really good about this thing? And I never realized that it says create a food token too. Like you can
Yeah.
choose to
Yeah.
make it. And there's times where I've been sitting at low life that mana
Yeah.
doesn't matter at this point. So let me get a
That's right.
couple of food tokens and just kind of like dig myself out of this hole that I put myself in. And like just the versatility, it's so minor and so niche, but I'm glad to have it.
I know it's one of those things where I make fun of it for like why would you ever make food, but the fact is that having it there as a like kind of pressure release valve late in the game, like, oh, we're all at low life totals now and I can pop off and make about five or six foods and I have the mana to activate them, so I just gain 20 life. Like that's a huge swing.
Mm-hmm.
So don't underestimate that part of that part of
Yeah,
the card.
so yeah, this card is amazing and I love to see it. Um so the next card we're going to talk about is an amazing card. I was sad it was taken from me one day. Um I will never emotionally, physically or financially recover from this. And we're talking about 6. So he is a 3 mana legendary creature tree folk. That's 2 and a green. He is a 2/4 reach. Whenever 6 attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. Weird how I'm turning lands back to my hand again, Tim.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
As long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. Bro, let me tell you. When 80 or what was the final number? 70 cards, like
80,
minus
80
lands.
permanents.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
minus
80,
lands.
81 with your commander. Yeah.
Having retrace is really good. So imagine Gitrog out. I'm drawing a card on top of it. Imagine like just like anything. Imagine my commander. I'm getting a 2/2 with it because it's leaving my graveyard. It fills my graveyard, Tim. It does it itself.
It does.
It's crazy. This card does everything.
Yeah. And
Wizards of
it's as
Coast.
you
What were
said,
you thinking?
it does. It's incredibly difficult to categorize it because it does all of the things that, it mills you cards. It allows you to put lands into your graveyard, allows you to get non-lands out of your graveyard to reuse them and cast them again. You have so many permanents in the deck. And because you've already milled a whole bunch of things, yes. And again, this is another example of a card that is good in a non-mill strategy.
Yep.
This card is actually just good. It is a good way to reuse things that have ended up dead, like your creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And in a deck like this, it just is super powered.
Yeah. This card's amazing. So now we're gonna talk about really how the deck can win. We've talked a lot
How do you
about
win?
value engines. So Tim, what card did you pick for us?
So I think that this is so I picked Sir Conrad the Grim. It's 3 and 2 black. It's a 5/4 human knight. If you play Commander, you're probably familiar with this card by now.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in this deck, it triggers in all of the different ways that it is described. So it reads when another creature dies, or a creature is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each of your opponents. You can also pay 1 and a black to have each player mill a card. And so there's an enormous amount of opportunity for those triggers to impact. It is a kind of aristocrat's piece where if this is on the board and you create a loop, you just win.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, if it's on the board and you have enough mana to dump into it, you can create an extraordinary amount of triggers for that reason. So I think that this was a great include in this kind of deck.
Yeah.
And it's an unsurprising include, but it's so very good synergy wise with all of the pieces you already have in place.
Yeah, I can't say enough about this. The only problem with this card is it's going to trigger so much. I'm going to miss it at least 20 times in a single turn.
Right.
Like, I'm killing my stuff. I'm milling cards. Cards are coming from my graveyard back. I'm going to miss it a lot. So if you are sitting across from me, I ask you personally, I'm talking to you. You know who I'm talking about, but please help me remind me of my triggers. Okay? Thank you. Back to our regularly scheduled program of cards that will help us win the game. I actually picked 2 cards because I wanted to show one of the infinite combos in the list. It is a kind of like a 5-card-ish combo. Like, it works with some pieces and it can do other things. But the first card on the list is gonna be, why am I opening it this way? Hiru, Goldkeeper. He is a 1 and Sultai dragon. He is a 3/3 flyer. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard during your turn, create a treasure token. The second ability, I don't even know what it does. But anyway, it says renew. I can pay 2 and Sultai. Exile this card from your graveyard to put 2+1/+1 counters on, and a flying counter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to activate that ability, Tim.
I mean, it could win you the game.
It could.
Like,
there might be that one day.
It's just icing, okay? It is just 100% icing. It doesn't matter. But if your commander is on the board and you need 5 damage to win, and they don't have a flying blocker, you're putting those 2 counters from the graveyard.
Of course.
It's absolutely just gravy.
And the second part of the combo is Tortured Existence. It's an enchantment that you can pay 1 black to play it, and then 1 black, choose and discard a creature card and then you return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, how this combo works is you have my commander in play, this dragon in play, and a creature in your graveyard and a creature in your hand. The rest, like the specific creatures, don't matter. But I start the combo by playing a black, discarding a creature, bringing a creature back. I make a treasure and a 2/2. Rinse and repeat. I have infinite 2/2s now. It's not infinite mana. It doesn't win instant speed unless if I have like Sir Conrad out, makes it win instant speed. I can have infinite mana if I have Phyrexian Altar. I can have depending on what I have, I can do other things to make it instant speed. But I can do this also whenever I want. So as long as I have a black and 2, I can just do it on my opponent's end step. Board wipes don't matter anymore. Let me double check that. Because I feel like one of them says specifically my turn.
Here we go. Goalkeeper says your turn. You only get treasure tokens.
Okay. So yeah, I do have to do it on my turn. Yeah. Makes it a little sad, but if I have a Phyrexian Altar, at that point
it just creates a loop, right? Yep. And it creates a loop that is generating, if your commander is out, is generating you 2/2s. It's also creating a loop that if Conrad out, just kills everybody.
Yep.
So there's definitely, you only need to, and obviously you need a creature card in your hand and a creature card in your graveyard, which is why it qualifies as like a 5-card combo. But it sounds complicated to get it together, and it's just not.
It's not.
Like
it really
the deck
isn't.
can put. And that's the beauty of the deck, is that it's got combo pieces where you can kind of slot in combo piece A, and there's a couple of different cards, and combo piece B, and there's a couple of different cards, and then your commander's over here in C, and just random stuff in your graveyard as part 4. So yeah, it's 4 pieces, but one of them's in your command zone, and one is just having cards in your graveyard, which is going to happen unless somebody's playing with something that rest in peace, or something that makes stuff not go to the graveyard, and
and then we're not friends with you anyway, so
right.
Now I will say, like, each of those cards do great things on their own, right? Tortured Existence allows me to get a creature that I don't need, like Secure Tribelder, late in the game, and it turns it into whatever I want it to.
Whatever's in your graveyard.
So like
it is quite solid for that reason, and like the Tortured Existence just combos with your commander by itself. Like, you're also creating a 2/2 zombie at that point, and you can do that at instant speed.
And if I have 10 black mana on your end step, I'm making 10 creatures, and like it just gets silly after that. So like that's why I was like, usually I don't like combo decks, because a lot of the times the combo pieces don't do what you want to do until it's combo time. My combo pieces, I can just play whenever I want because they're useful whenever I want.
Yeah, so what you end up with is a deck that feels like a value engine deck that ends up with a combo finish when enough of the value engine pieces are in place together.
Right.
So, and that is a different kind of play flow than it would be if you were just racing to the combo and the pieces of the combo weren't doing anything beforehand.
Yeah.
All right, we've talked about the goals. We've talked about the traditional things, so we're going to move towards a closing today with first off with an honorable mention, which is usually when we do these lists, there's a card that after we've made all of the goals and all of the regular pieces, there's just one thing that we didn't talk about for some reason that deserves a mention. Then we'll wrap up with cards that maybe we feel like adding. So I'll let Zombie go first on this one. So what's your honorable mention and why?
So my honorable mention, there was just so many categories that I wanted to put it in that I couldn't figure it out. So this card's amazing. It's from the new set. I think it's from the precon. And see, it's just an upgraded precon, guys. Just an upgraded precon.
Don't even worry about it.
It's Colossal Grave Reaver. Man, the second I saw this card, I fell in love. It is an 8 mana, 6, a black and a green dragon. It's a 7/6 flyer. When this creature enters or attacks, mill 3 cards. Whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put one of them onto the battlefield.
Oh man.
Just wow.
I need this card. I need this card
on so many levels. So many levels. Well, so how does it work with rads, right? So they all get milled at the same time. So like
they do, but rad mills are usually pretty low.
Right. You milled yourself for 12 yesterday. That's why I was asking.
I did, but so yeah, if I mill 12 cards, I only get to pick one creature out of that 12.
Right. I just wasn't sure if it was like Mesmeric Orb, where it's like, hey, this rat, like there's 12 separate triggers because It's the rad counters that are doing it. So,
I understand. I don't think that the rad counters work like that. No,
oh, okay. I mean, either way,
I
this is
think that
still
you're.
amazing.
Yeah, the card is just really great. It changes the way that the kind of mill works. So if you're playing in any kind of mill strategy and you're in these colors, yeah, this is something to take. Listen, it's expensive, but that just makes it a good reanimate target. And
Oh, weird.
again,
It's
your
like
deck
I'm
is
doing that
also very,
already.
very like, yeah, very, very ramp heavy. So it's not hard for you to get this onto the
Absolutely not.
battlefield.
Absolutely not. So, Tim, what card did you pick?
I picked the card that you and I have been playing with for a long time because
Hmm.
we have been playing the game for a long time. And whenever we're playing in kind of Lands Matters deck, this card usually comes up. I've always been a fan of it, but it with a couple of the cards that we talked about today, it has a remarkably unique synergy. I'm talking about Realms Uncharted. This is 2 and a green for an instant. You search your library for 4 land cards with different names and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest into your hand. Shuffle your library. So dig the 4 lands, and again, utility land deck. You're digging the 4 utility lands that are most important to you right now. 2 of them go to your hand, 2 of them you go to graveyard. You almost never care which is which. And there are
Right.
circumstances like having a head shredder in
I
play.
was just about to bring that up. I was like, head shredder, there's no right answer.
There's no right answer because they just all go to your
They
hand.
all,
So what?
no,
So the
2 of them
question,
go into play.
dear
So it's like
listener.
a ramp spell too with
Oh,
head
that's
shredder.
right. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. They go into play with Head Shredder. So
Gross.
even better. Yeah. So would you pay 3 mana at instant speed to search for your 4 best lands, put 2 of them into play, 2 of them into your hand? Would you?
No, no,
Is that any
it
good?
sounds like a horrible idea.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is why no one plays with Kadama's Reach anymore.
yeah.
This isn't why. But this card is just amazing.
Yeah, I feel like this card is underutilized. Like I don't see it in the wild very often.
That's right.
And
And
why?
that's why it comes up. Like you play with it all the time. I don't have any Lands Matters deck, I don't think at this point. So I haven't put but I would. This card is just so very good
Mm-hmm.
in those builds. I definitely have a copy
Mm-hmm.
of it floating around that I haven't played for a long time because I don't have a deck like that, but it
Yeah,
would be in there if I did.
the card's amazing. So, all right. So every time you build a deck, it's never complete. There's always that one more card that you want to add. And quite frankly, I think all 3 of these cards are going to make the cut because I honestly forgot about the cards you picked. And
Yeah.
the cards that I picked are just amazing. So,
Yeah, I agree. So I picked, and we were just talking about the Wise Mothman. So it's I think almost impossible to have a conversation about Teval without having a conversation about the Wise Mothman. I think it would actually make a lot of sense for me to pick up a Teval to put it in my Mothman deck,
mhm.
and a lot of the other cards they do different things, but anything that says mill on it and anything that interacts with things that mill, it can be a boon. And so the other commander from Ye Old Mothman deck was the Master Transcendent, and it's 1 in Sultai for a 2/4 legendary artifact creature mutant. Artifact mattering because if it's in the graveyard and have Muldrotha, you can cast it as your artifact and not your creature.
Damn straight, Skippy.
When it enters, target player gets 2 rads, which in this case is going to be you every
Yeah,
time. You're going to
yeah.
give yourself the rad, and those are going to run out. But the second part is what matters more. Master Transcendent has an activated ability that's just tap it, put target creature in a graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under your control. It's a green mutant with base power, toughness 3/3. So if you're already milling a bunch of cards, which this deck does plenty of, now it's allowing you to reanimate one of those creatures every turn. So it's kind of like it's very similar to the Grave Reaver. You're using it as an activated ability, and it's a less expensive card.
Do you know what I was thinking? I was like, I'm just gonna get the Grave Reaver with the Master Transcended,
Yeah.
and then it's just gonna get silly.
Yeah. So
So
yeah, if I think that, and I'm not sure what comes out for it. That's the difficulty, is that the deck is already so kind of streamlined that I'm
yeah.
I'm not sure if if there's a reanimation spell
So,
that is just a one-time use that this maybe takes the place of. Hard to say.
so I definitely know of one card that's going to come out the list, and that's going to be Titania, Protector of Argoth,
Okay,
because
interesting. Yep.
I don't necessarily need to pay 5 mana to get one land from my graveyard, and I'm not
Mhm.
sacrificing my lands as much as I did in my last iteration of it. So I'm not going to be
That's a good point.
making as many 5/3s as I originally thought.
Yeah.
So, um, but the cards that I picked are also very good. So we're gonna go. I cheated a little bit because one's I mean, I cheat. It's my show. I can do what I want. So the first card I picked was Azusa Lost But Seeking. It's a 3 mana legendary human monk. You may play 2 additional lands each turn. I already have a lot of extra lands that I want to play anyway. Uh, so why not just be able to play 2 more?
Yeah.
I really can't argue with that.
I mean, it's the best at this specific thing,
Right.
and I don't remember, but I don't think you're playing. I don't think you're playing with a lot of you can play an additional land cards that don't have huge upside, right? Like we talked about Gitrog, we talked about AC, like those cards say that on there, but
Exploration's in here too.
okay,
Um,
but that one's also
it
one
costs
mana,
1 mana,
right? So it's
right?
like right. So each of them is like it has this huge upside. There's the middle of the road
Right.
ones that are like 3 mana. The Sword Tooth comes to mind,
Yep.
where it's like there's just some spells that allow you to play an additional land that aren't quite as good. But in the 3 mana spot, Azusa takes that spot because it gets you
Even
to
Dryad of the Elysian Grove, he's not in here.
I would I would agree. Like this is better than that in this particular sense because this deck is getting so many lands, back to its hand or
Right.
drawing so many cards and getting the extra thing that being able to dump 2 extra each turn really gets you moving a lot quicker.
It works really, really well with any of the play lands from your graveyard as well. Like it just does so
Yes.
much.
Oh, yes. Oh, and then you're getting the triggers from your commander
Yep.
and everything else that triggers from the when something leaves the battlefield.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and then the second one is a great land. It's called Balaged Recovery. And I don't know why I didn't really have this in the list before, but I'm going to read the card first. Balaged Recovery is a 3 mana sorcery. It says it's 2 and a green. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. It can also be a land that enters tapped. So, what makes this so good is because I can play it as a land early on, return it to my hand with a Tangleland. I can then return something. Then I can play it again from my graveyard if I want as a land. It just does so much. It's triggering my commander. It's getting me back a card that I want. Since I have so much mana, the extra 1 that I'm paying for it to be a land as well isn't a problem. I'm okay with paying 3 and getting the best card from my graveyard. It's like a demonic tutor light, really.
Yeah, and I see this as just a quality of life pick because this is a card that Balagad Recovery, Balagad Sanctuary. If you have the ability to get this card because it's an expensive uncommon because it's an MDFC
Oh
because
dang, I
it
didn't
can be a
realize that.
land or also yeah it's not super expensive. I don't know what it's
It's
sitting at right now. It's
$6.
usually yeah, so it's that's a lot for an uncommon, but if you have the wherewithal to get it, it should be in every green commander deck you play.
That's
Like if
true.
green's in your color identity, this should be in there. It is one of the single best MDFCs that exists in the game. So it's not surprising. Again, in this deck, it gets to abuse it a little bit, which is remarkable. But
Yeah.
again, I just see this. I see this as a quality of life upgrade. When any of my green decks, I don't necessarily have enough of these to just put one into every deck I
Right.
play. So when I'm looking to upgrade a deck, the first thing I do is I look through the lands and go, are there some MDFCs I could be trading out lands for that are effective enough to take place of some of the lands? And this one makes the cut every time if I'm in this color. So easy add-on as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I always forget about the MDFCs. Like, I just don't
Yep.
think about them. I don't have the list of cards set in my mind and know what every MDFC does. So, like, I forget about it. And I shouldn't. I really shouldn't.
What's funny is that they're in, especially in the Zendikar cycle, there were a bunch of enormously good ones, and that's where this one comes from.
Yeah.
So it like there were a bunch that were just incredibly good. As
Right.
the mythic cycle comes to mind, almost all of them are worth looking at. But the difficulty is that they're, the mythic ones are expensive and they're hard to get there. And you think to yourself, am I really going to spend this on a card that's like, it's a land, but it has this like slight spell upside to it?
Yeah.
Some of them are, way better than others. But then in Modern Horizons 3, I think it was, they printed a whole bunch of new ones, a whole bunch,
Yeah.
and I don't know all of those, but those are, generally speaking, slightly less strong. So it's like the upside of having that as your MDFC is very marginal. So there's
Right.
less incentive to go learn those cards and to go get those cards. But again, Balagad recovery is at the tip top of that list. So if you're
Yeah.
playing green, go get this card and put it in a land spot.
Yeah. Now that makes me want to think about like Seagate Restoration and stuff like that.
That's right.
Because that card's good.
I mean, could this deck use Agadeem's Awakening?
Of course. It could use Malekith's Rebirth too. Like,
yep.
Like, am I really going to have to rebuild this, Tim? Oh my God.
Right. No, you're just going to look at the MDFCs and say how many of these are actually good at this deck. Like, how many of these spells are like, this is a good spell for this deck, and it is also a land on the back.
Right.
If it's just a spell on one side, and it's a spell where you're like, this doesn't really do what the deck's trying to do, I wouldn't include those. But again, the mythic ones are all very good, except the green one, probably not for this deck.
I don't even know what the green one does.
I could explain it, but I'm just trust me when I say.
Not this episode. We have a whole other episode for that.
Yeah, trust me when I say that it's probably not right for this deck, just because it doesn't do exactly what the deck is trying to do. So I would not go out of my way for that one.
So just out of curiosity, I am running 38 lands as a whole. I kind of want to get it up to 40 with MDFCs. After, like, if I find like 4 MDFCs, do I just cut like normal lands then for that? Or do I just leave them as spells as well?
I think that this is I think that this is a divisive question, and that there are people who will say that the MDFC lands, because most of them enter tapped on the backside, but that's not true about all of them anymore. There are a bunch in Modern Horizons that have that pay 3 life to have them untapped quality, so they get even better when you have those. But Malakir Rebirth enters tapped. Balagad Recovery enters tapped. The mythic ones have the ability to be untapped for 3 life, which is a lot for a 1 mana land, or for a single color land.
Right.
So I think that most folks would argue that you can 1 for 1, but I wouldn't like. So I agree that the deck should get up to 40. I think it should have more lands than the standard deck. But if it was like 40 lands and 4 of them were MDFCs, I think you can get away with that.
Oh, okay, good. So now that I'm probably gonna do this for the next 6 hours of my life, I think we're at the end, Tim.
We are, gang. As cons of our local clans, we got a lot of paperwork that we got to get back to. So we'll say farewell for now. Thank you for spending time with us on the Head Games Commander podcast. Remember, you can support this show and all of our other content by watching this and other videos on our YouTube page, by checking out our streams on Twitch and YouTube. Find those links in the description.
But before we scoop things up, we want to ask you from the think tank, what cards would you play in this commander deck? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for playing along with us and have a wonderful day. Bye. Or should I say...